welcome to week 2 of Intro to 3D Modeling and Animation, or whatever, which way. So for this video tutorial, for lab number dos, we are going to be modeling a character. I'm going to give you the image plane, so they'll be on the website. They'll also be like where you submit the assignment. There's a resources section. It'll just be a zip folder. It'll look like this. All you're going to do is just right click and extract all. Then this extract. Now if you are, and inside of it are basically 3 pictures, okay? If you're on a Mac, you can just double click on it and it will automatically, which is nice. I kind of like that better, but anyway, you'll see that basically we have these 3 image planes. So there's a front view, a side view, and a 3/4. Now we only are going to need really the orthographic views, the front and the side, but it's good to have a 3/4 view because it gives you an idea of what the character looks like. Like if you were only to draw one view, you should draw a 3/4 view, because whenever you see a character, whether it be in film or games or what have you, it's almost always in a 3/4 view. It gives you the most information about the person. It has the most depth. It's the most appealing. Anyway, so yeah. It's based off of my son, Charlie. All right. Okay, so you're going to do that first. Then what you're going to do is you're going to open up Maya. Badoom. And then last week what we did is we made the animal primitive model thing, right? Which is cool. But that was one project. We're going to start a new project. And this project is going to be the same lab project that we do for the remaining of the semester. You will also make your own stuff, but basically this will be like our final project. We're only making the 2. So let's do that. So we're going to make the project window. So we're going to go File, Project Window, click on New, and then just do your last name underscore film. Okay, so last name underscore film. Navigate to where you wish that it to be created. I'm going to create mine in the desktop. Okay, and then hit accept. And it's going to go bloop. Didn't even have to calculate. Usually it says success or something. Okay, I'm going to minimize this. You're going to see that it made you this nice little folder, and it has all the subsequent junk, right? It's got the junk in the trunk. So what we're going to do is I want to take these image planes and put them into my project. So if you remember before, images come out. That's the export out of Maya. To go in is source images. So you're going to double click on source images, and then I just want you to take those 3 image planes that you just downloaded, just grab them and tag them. Okay, just right like that. Just drop them in there. So they are in your source images of that project folder that was just created, because we're going to use that to import. You want to keep everything in that nice little folder. All right. All right. Let's go back here. Woohoo! All right. So next what we're going to do, follow me exactly, because it might get a little weird. We're going to use the orthographic view, so you're going to tap spacebar. Okay, do not zoom in or out. Just leave it like this, because right now the cameras are in the same distance from the plane in all cameras. If you move the camera, it'll change the position of the image plane that we create. So, well, actually more the scale than the position. So now what I want you to do is on the front one, you're going to go to Panels. I'm sorry, you're going to go to View, Image Plane, Import Image, ... lots of suspense. And so this is the front view, so I'm just going to choose Charizard front. Badoop, there he is. And then we're going to go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. This is in the side view. And you're going to choose Side. Boop, like that. Boom, dynamite, okay? So that looks pretty good. Now what you're going to do is we need to move these. So I'm going to click and drag. You can't just click. Oh, it does work. Okay, sometimes it doesn't work. You might need to click and drag to get it, but I need to center this. So I obviously tried to draw this as in the center as I could, but it might be slightly off. So if you look at like the philtrum of his lip, see how it's a little bit, he's a little bit to the left? Yeah, be your left too. Okay. All I'm going to do is hit W for the move tool, and I'm just going to push him a little bit to the right. Looks good. So now he's a little more centered. So later on, when you do this for your project, you're doing this the same as me for the lab, but when you eventually do your own, that's how you move it. The other thing I need to do is this. I need to take the picture. You can see it here. You can see right now it's like in my drawing, so that's going to be kind of in the way. So I want you to do is take it and just push it back. See how the Z, this is forward? Z's forward, the handle's forward. I want you to push it back. Just push it back to like the back of this. That's fine, okay? You'll notice it doesn't change anything here because the orthographics view have no perspective, which means it can go all the way to infinity. It would still look exactly the same in this view. It's like a blueprint, okay? So we're going to call that one good. Now I'm going to select this one. I'm going to go ahead and just push this one back all the way to here, okay? And that'll just leave us room here. I'm going to hit space bar to go here. Just tap it. You don't have to click in there. And then I need to worry about my position here. Now, for the most part, this doesn't actually matter too much. You might also, when these are together, make sure that they line up, like height-wise. I'm going to tell you right now, mine aren't perfect, and yours probably aren't going to be either. Generally speaking, what I like to try to do is I try to think of a plumb line. When we balance ourselves based on our inner ear. So I try to look for basically where the ear is and more or less kind of put that in the center. So he's pretty good. So that's fine. Okay. Now, what I don't want to have happen too is that while I'm working, I accidentally click and move them and stuff. That's going to throw everything off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these on a layer, visibility layer, or display layer, and then we will be good. So I'm just going to click and drag across both of them, so I have them both. Or you can click on one, hold shift, click the other, whatever makes sense for you. And then over here, these move layers up and down. This will create a new layer, but it'll be an empty layer. And this one will create a new layer from what's currently selected. So we want the ball and paper. Click on that, double click on this, and we're just going to call it IMG, oops, not a capital L though, planes. All right, so image planes, and hit save. Then we know what they are, and we can turn them on and off. Great. And what I want to do is this. So on the right here, you'll see it's blank, not the P, the one to the right of it. If I click on it once, it's going to turn to a T. That means template. In this case, what template means is that, like, if you had a model, it would show it as wireframe. It wouldn't say any color, it wouldn't say anything else, and it also grays it out. So you can't see them at all because they're not geometry. If you click it again, this is reference. Reference will show the model or whatever it is in its full rendered glory, but they're not selectable. They are not selectable either in template, although you can't see it here. But render does that, but you can actually see them. So we're going to keep it in render view. But if for some reason you need to move them or something, just click it one more time, and now they're selectable again. All right, so it's just you just click right through. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that on reference, and now they're there. That's great. Another thing that I also don't find helpful is this. They are in perspective view. I don't really need them in perspective view. I only really need them visible in here. So I'm just going to do an adjustment real quick. We're just going to turn them off. So all things in here, right, there's polygons, there's particles, there's these image planes, there's cameras, there's all sorts of curves, all sorts of things, right? If you go to show, you'll see this big long list. These are kind of all the categories of things that could be in there. So sometimes it's useful, like if you have models but you're trying to work on like joints and the model's in the way, you could just go over and turn polygons and just turn it off, and now that's no longer visible in that panel. You can turn it back on. You can also go to show, turn everything off, and be like, I just want to see models. Okay, so it's useful for that. But what I want to do is I just want you to go to show, and you want to go down to image planes right here. And now image planes are not visible. This is per panel. See, this panel has its own show. So it's only in this one is it not going to be visible. Because I don't need it in there. It's going to be in the way of modeling. Okay? So now we got that set up. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and save our scene just because we got the bare bones down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do File, Save As. Or you can do, or Save Scene, or Save As, either way. And I'm just going to call this boy geo underscore V01. Alright, so it's the boy geometry V01. Boom. Okay, so now we've got that saved. I am going to constantly forget to save because I'm doing this with you, but you should be saving like constantly because mine crashes a lot, the files get corrupt, all that. And just remember, it's underscore V01, V02, V03. Now, if you know you're going to get into the hundreds, you want to do V001, which when I do my own projects, I do go into the hundreds, but you'll probably not. So V01 is enough to probably be enough of what you need. Not that it wouldn't work otherwise, but, you know, naming order and stuff, it's padding. Okay. So, we have this going on here. Now what I want to do, it's going to be a lot like we did last time, but we're basically going to add an extra step. We're going to kind of block this out as pieces, but in specific ways. And then we're going to add an extra step to, we're actually going to merge them together and just sort of flesh out what the model will sort of look like, okay? All right, so what we want to do is I'm going to keep all 4 panels up here. I'm going to go to create. I'm not going to just click any one of these because I want these to be a specific size, and you'll see why later on. There are 2 ways of modeling. You can either model free willy, where you're just going blah, 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 throwing all this stuff around, and then you just figure it out. When you do like digital sculpting and stuff, and you don't worry about the geometry, you don't worry about what you're doing, you're just trying to make it look good, and then you'll figure it out afterwards. The other way is to do it more like chess, where you're like, okay, I'm going to make this many sides, because later on I'll be able to connect this to this, and I'm going to need to take out this amount, and so you think multiple levels ahead. It's a very clean, less like having to try and fix kind of way, which I suggest for right now. Later on, when you get a little bit better, you can kind of willy-nilly. Sometimes I do one or the other, but we're going to try to be more steppy ahead, okay? So create Polygon Primitives. We're going to go to Sphere, hit the option box, because we want to choose the size. And I want you to do 8 by 8. Whenever we make all of our objects, we're always going to do them in multiples of 4. So it'll be 4, 8, or doubles, I should say, then 16, then 32. And the reason why you'll see is that one can go into the other relatively easy. You don't want to do weird numbers like 7 or 3 or anything like that. You want to kind of keep them on those numbers. So 4, which would be a quad, right? Basically, if I did this as 4, it would just look like a cube. It would look like a diamond, I think. But so we want to do, actually it wouldn't look like that either. It doesn't matter. But we're going to go ahead and hit create. That'll become my default. That's great. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make primitives of each one of the body parts. So we're going to think of what the body parts would be, and then we'll make the primitives that represent them. So obviously the head is a cylinder, right? So I have this here, and I can see both views. I'm just going to tap spacebar, go into here. Alt, right mouse button. Remember, right mouse button is zoom in and out. You can use the wheelie if you want. Middle mouse button, Alt and middle mouse button, and Alt and left. But I can't rotate in here because it's orthographic. Okay. Remember also, I want to keep just these handles. I want to keep this on origin so that I have a halfway line. So see how there's a line that's halfway? Because eventually what we're going to do is we're going to delete this half and flip the other. Okay? All right, so you want to move it up kind of to the center of the head. I'm going to hit R for scale. I'm going to scale it bigger. Now, you can see I can't see my drawing underneath it. It's kind of annoying. Since we're using these reference images, I need to be able to see them. Now, I can't hit 4, but, then I got like a wireframe, and it doesn't look that great. Sometimes that's actually easier, but another thing you can do is just turn on X-ray. So you can click this button here, or you can just go shading, and all the shading options are here. It's a little bit easier because I don't know what these icons necessarily mean. And you'll see X-ray. And that's just going to make it so the model is see-through, which makes it a little bit easier when we're trying to do this part here, okay? So I'm going to right mouse button click, and I'm going to try and scale like that. Let's go up, scale up a little bit. Okay, you can see it's a little bit too wide for his head, so I'm just going to squeeze just this one handle like this. Now you'll notice that over here it's about right, and over here it's too far over. The drawing's not going to be perfect. You just kind of want to do the best that you can with what you have. Trust me, you're never going to have a good, perfect thing. Okay. Plus, people are asymmetrical. So there's that one. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go shading, X-ray, and then I'm going to look at it here. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to squish it this way a little bit, and then I'm just going to pull it this way forward a little bit. Okay, good. So we're going to call that a head, right? We're getting a head. Now let's go ahead and do the torso. Okay, so the torso we could do a couple different ways. We're going to do this a little bit different. Yeah, so when you look at a torso, honestly, you can think of a bunch of different visual volumes that could probably fill a torso. And if I asked you, some of you might say a cylinder, because I can see how it's like a cylinder, right? Some of you might say, oh, a sphere, because you could definitely say how it's a sphere too. Mine's very spherical. You could basically say all of them, and you wouldn't be necessarily wrong. For ours, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do a cube, because I feel like the cube will be a little bit easier to work with. Okay, so I'm going to go to Create, Polygon Primitives, Cube, Option Box, and just make sure it's 1, 1, 1, should be anyway. Also, you could just go to Edit, reset settings. So if for some reason you had changed those, you can do that for any of the tools. Then we're going to go ahead and hit create, and it's going to create my cube. All right, I'm going to go over to this view, and I'm going to scale it. Scale it by the middle first, roughly to the thickness, and then I'm going to go ahead and scale it this way. And I'm going to scale it from the bottom of the crotch area up to the shoulders, okay? That's what we're actually, no, we'll go all the way up to the top of the shoulder, like up here, so where the neck would be, okay? So from the crotch to the neck, I'm going to switch to this view, and you're going to see just space bar, and then just going to squeeze this a little bit, move it back a little bit, okay? Now this one, we're not flipping this on this axis, right? So this can move this way and up and over and stuff, that's fine. It's just this view, you must keep straight. You do not move it this way, because eventually, like I said, we're going to flip the whole thing, and I want everything to be nice and have a line that I can cut from to flip it. Okay, so we'll call that a representation of the torso. Let's go ahead and do the leg, right? The leg, I can ask all of you, and you might have different answers, and you'd all be wrong unless you said cylinder. So we're going to go with cylinder. Again, I'm not going to click on here. I'm going to go ahead, have space bar. I just like to keep this all open. I'm going to go to create, Polygon Primitives, cylinder, and then we're going to just make sure the axis divisions are 8. Okay, you're going to probably notice we're always doing 8s. We'll go like that, and then hit create. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to this view here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it down and over. You can actually grab it right on the inside because it won't move it the other way. Now this one is going to be moved over here because obviously we would be flipping the whole leg over. Okay, so that's okay. Should have done pants instead of shorts. This makes it more confusing. But anyway, we're going to go like this. I'm going to scale it tall. All right. And I'm going to scale it. I'm going to scale to the top of the pant, not the bottom. We'll figure that out later. Okay. And we're going to call that good for the leg. Okay. And now I need an arm. Okay. So obviously it needs a foot too, but I'm not going to worry about the foot right now. If you wanted to, you could duplicate this and then just bend it over and make a foot. Or you could just use a cube and put a cube there for the foot. But for now, I'm not worried about it. Because we're gonna make the foot out of this. All right, so got this guy going. Muy bueno. We're gonna take this and we can do it two ways. I can either duplicate it, rotate it, or I can click on the thing. Now, if you remember, the default settings were 20, but now when I click for the axis divisions on the cylinder, now when I click on this, you're gonna see it's gonna show up as 8 every time. So whatever settings you last leave is what they're gonna be. Instead, I'm just gonna duplicate it here. So just hit Control D or Command D. And it's going to make a duplicate, and it's right on top of the other one. Notice it says P cylinder 2. If I click this off, you see this was P cylinder 1. So you could look at the name and make sure that the name changed, and then you know what's on top of the other one. Okay, so just be careful because you might have thought that you only have 1 or 2. You might have clicked too many times, and you have like 20 of them. All right. Okay, so I duplicate it. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to put it over, and then I need to rotate it 90 degrees. So I'm going to hit E for rotate, and then I can see it's the blue one, right? Doesn't matter whether I go this way or this way. So I'm just going to go rotate blue with Z. I'm going to go over here to rotate Z. I'm going to type in 90. It's easier than trying to, rotate it manually. Okay, that's okay. So now I'm going to go over here, and if you notice, I didn't really make an arm. I just made a hole. My son does have arms. I just didn't put them in here. We'll move it down here, and I'm going to scale it. I'm going to scale it. I'm going to scale it just wider, like so. Scale a little bit down like that. I'm going to switch to this view and just make sure that it's where his hole would be. And good. Okay. I'm going to turn the grid off because I don't really need that. All right. So now we have a sort of base shape. What I'm going to do in the next one is we're going to manipulate the components much like we did in the first time, but we're going to be a little bit more particular about the way that we do it. And we're also going to start using modeling tools. So like cutting edges, extruding, subdividing, like things where you actually build the shape out of this and then we'll connect those pieces together, okay? So the next one's going to, this should have been mostly review. The next video is going to basically bring it to the next level, okay? See you in the next one.